An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? Your stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 138. I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I'm Darlene.
We watched one of Darlene's favorite movies today.
When I was a kid, I watched The Cat from Outer Space. Yeah, it's 1978, but everything in it makes you feel like you're in the 1960s.
Yes. Late 1960s, I would say. The concepts of it are kind of goofy 1960s science fiction. It just has the production qualities of late 70s Disney movies.
And it is a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's an hour and 44 minutes long. It's classified as a comedy family sci-fi.
Okay, it is.
And
yes, it is science fiction. It's
definitely a comedy, too. And it's definitely for kids.
Yes.
So, it's G-rated, and it would cost $4 million to make it.
In today's money, you know how much that is? I actually did the numbers on this. I did a lot of the numbers on this movie because there's actual numbers that they use in the film, but that's about $40 million in today's money. And it looks like a $40 million movie. It actually does look good.
I love the spaceship. It looks like a ladybug.
Yeah, it's also a very simple spaceship in it. There is a helicopter that's used in it that is actually still in use today, just not in the U.S. It went to the Philippines. We found that out.
Jake the cat, which is the alien cat, is actually played by two different. How do you pronounce that?
Abyssinian.
Abyssinian. Rumple and his sister Amber. So it's not always a male cat that's on screen.
Sure, but they might be so identical that it's difficult. I mean, it is difficult to tell. It always looks like the same cat to me. So this is obviously one of your favorite films growing up. We did decide to do this, even though it is sort of outside our time period, because like I said, and like Darlene said, it does have a feeling of like a goofy 1960s science fiction. It's just that it's in color with good quality film. If this was black and white and slightly more choppy and grainy, yeah, this would easily fit into a 1960s concept.
And a lot of well-known actors.
Yeah, there's a lot of big actors.
Ken Berry, Sandy Duncan, Harry Morgan.
McLean Stevenson is in this too. So there's like this is a MASH type reunion in this in some ways.
The person that plays Sergeant Duffy is also the voice of Jake the cat.
Yeah, but they didn't use his voice when he was playing Sergeant Duffy.
Oh,
just FYI. No, they didn't. Even though there's the guy speaks in it, they redubbed his voice when he was a person because his voice was too recognizable, and they would have been like, "Oh crap, that's Jake."
The cinematographer is Charles F. Wheeler. You would know it for Tora, Tora, Tora,
mm-hmm.
Freaky Friday.
Well, Freaky Friday.
And Pursuit of D.B. Cooper.
Oh, a D.B. Cooper connection in this movie. Oh, okay. All right.
I just thought you'd want to know that. That was the Pursuit of D.B. Cooper did not do real well.
Most
and it was done in 1981.
See, most D.B. Cooper things don't really do well, and most people don't even really know D.B. Cooper. The only reason people now know about D.B. Cooper is because of the weird reference in the Loki TV series. Do you remember watching that, Darlene? And I went, "Oh my God, they're referencing D.B. Cooper," and you're like, "Oh my God, you're right." But we know D.B. Cooper just because we both love weird crap, and D.B. Cooper is like peak weird true crime.
It's weird true crime, and still hasn't been found. Or
Yeah, they did find some of the original money. Did you know that a child found a wad of those bills? I know we're getting off the subject, but a child found a wad of those bills in the sand on the river, and the FBI confirmed that they were actually part of the marked bills that were from the DB Cooper heist, and they had to actually keep them for X amount of time. I think it was like 20 years or something like that. And the kid, who was a kid at the time, was in college, and he got the money back. Now, you can't spend that money. It wasn't because it's old, it's degraded, it's awful. It wasn't that much. It was like $500-$600 in like 20s. But he started auctioning them off for money to pay for college. Like, hey, you want a piece of the DB Cooper mystery? It's confirmed by the FBI. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna get back to the cat from outer space.
It was marketed as Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh God!
And Norman Toker is the director, and this is his final film.
Yeah.
1 year later, he had a heart attack in his sleep at the age of 59.
What else did he do?
Apple Dumpling Gang, No Deposit, No Return.
Donna Reed show. Oh wow!
And did the early ones of Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, 93 episodes of Leave It to Beaver. Wow. So I've seen this guy's work because mornings growing up, I used to watch Leave It to Beaver, the Donna Reed show, and all that on reruns. Afternoon, it was like Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, and things like that. But the Donna Reed show, man, I'm telling you, that is underrated. It's weird, but it's underrated. So that's cool that he did some of these weird TV shows as director. That's cool. There aren't special effects in this movie. Not really. There's some in-camera stuff, right?
The purple pink lighting is special effects.
They reverse the film in some things. This is. I'm going to let you take the lead. You get to describe the plot because, as we said, Darlene, you loved this film growing up. You still do. It is a good film. I'm going to recommend it. But
there is something that I did not like in the movie.
There are things that don't work.
You made it. I didn't like that they really did knock out that cat.
Yeah, it looks fully like. I mean, the cat's not it's not like a dummy cat. That cat was clearly drugged. They knock out the cat purposely.
But you do see that the two cats, when they're airborne, are
dummies. They're stuffed
dummies.
Cats.
They're stuffed cats.
So you get to take the plot. Take it away, Darlene. Take it away.
It starts on a farm that has chickens and horses and possibly even cows.
There were cows. Yeah, there were cows. So I was like, those cows are going to be terrified with the UFO flying over them. They know what's coming.
Aaron! The spaceship lands, and the old woman and the old farmer are standing on the port with their dog that looks like Yellow Dog.
Oh, it's Yellow Dog or old Yeller. It's Yellow Dog because Yellow Dog doesn't know what town he lives in.
And he grabs a shotgun to go investigate.
As one does when you see strange lights in the sky landing on your farm. Yes, I'm with it so
and
far.
Sees the ladybug-looking spaceship.
And he's like, oh, damn.
And he calls out the military.
As well you should when you see something like that land on your farm.
And there's this joke all the way through this movie of the four military men. The general, Army. The colonel, the captain, and the sergeant.
Yeah.
And they line up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the general will give some kind of order, and it'll go on down to the sergeant who has to do it.
Yeah.
And it's a running joke. They come out and take the spaceship onto Hopscotch.
Project Hopscotch. Yeah, it's is that what it is?
It's supposed to be
Project Hopscotch.
It's Project Hopscotch, or is that the base's name?
The base is the same thing. It's just take it to Hopscotch. So, all right, fine, whatever. I don't see why the Army would be involved in this. This would be the Air Force. And you wouldn't have your general making threats to this farmer and his wife. You'd have the Men in Black out there. But I'm okay with this. We're not going to have terrifying men in black menacing these poor two farmers in a Disney movie. I get it. I'm okay with how this works so far. This movie could be frightening, Darlene, is what I'm saying. If this was not a comedy, this movie would be
This is what
terrifying.
I liked about it, was
know.
it wasn't... It was just joking. It's just fun.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Just,
yes, it is.
Ridiculous.
Keep going. Keep going. We're the ladybug gets flown to the army base.
Gets taken to the army base.
By helicopter.
By helicopter. And then the general and the colonel, the captain, and the sergeant go to this ELS.
Energy, it's ERL, Darlene. Energy Research Laboratory. Now, here's the fun bit. The military dudes, they think it's Soviet for like the longest time. What are they smoking? Can I also say that the introduction to this movie, even before the movie starts, is like a rotating Mickey statue that is blowing off light like everyone took LSD? At least on our DVD, it's
on
like
our
the
DVD,
feature presentation. I'm like, it's the end of 2001 as like the light is streaming at you, or you've dropped too much LDS back in the 60s, right? As Spock. Yeah, all right. Anyway,
so
keep going.
There's this humongous joke about this one guy that's the chief scientist of this place is giving introductions, and it goes a long ways too.
It's like 5 minutes of introducing every doctor that works at this energy research laboratory. Dr. So-and-so who's done this, and this. And there's this one guy who is one of our major characters. What's his name? I have to actually look it up. Which is terrible because that means he wasn't.
He's really, Frank.
It's not. That's not Frank. It's Link.
Oh, you're
it's
Link.
Who's played by McLean Stevenson.
He's making bets on a phone while this is happening.
Full on talking to a bookie in a top secret meeting. Like he's on, and it's not like he's being quiet about it. There's MPs with rifles right next to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I need $100 on the Raiders."
And then there's this guy that is there that's also a spy for Olympus.
Yeah, a criminal, actually played by Roddy McDowall. And Roddy McDowall is somebody you should actually know. Roddy McDowall's been in tons of sci-fi. He is Dr. It's not Dr. Chaos. It's Dr. Zaius from Planet of the Apes. Now I'm going to have to make sure I said it right because it's been so long since I watched Planet of the Apes, which probably is inside our wheelhouse.
Is it?
I don't know. Keep talking, Darlene.
Okay, the next thing that kind of happens is the cat ends up... They show this...
Cornelius. Dr. Cornelius. Damn it. Dr. Zaius. What the hell is wrong with me? Anyway, keep going.
They showed the drive for this spaceship.
Yes.
And
it's the Technicolor butt plug.
And everybody's picking on it that it looks like an artichoke.
Everyone calls it an artichoke, but yeah, in my notes I said it's the Technicolor butt plug. I'm being filthy in this movie for whatever reason. I don't know. I apologize.
He's throwing me off on everything, so I'm not...
I swear we haven't been drinking. Okay, keep going.
If you were drinking, you'd be enunciating everything,
yeah.
And he'd sound like a...
I'd sound very proper.
You'd sound like a
words properly.
Newscaster.
All right, keep going.
Well, Jake is watching.
Who's Jake, Darlene?
Jake's the cat.
Okay.
He's watching this because they've got his little egg thingy.
Yes.
Artichoke thingy.
Yes.
And Frank knows kind of what it is, but flips it off and goes...
what does Frank say it is? I wrote it down, Darlene.
I didn't.
Frank describes it as the artichoke using the quote-unquote cosmic mainstream, and that it has...
Primal mainstream.
Cosmic. and that it has something to do with the entire EM spectrum, that it somehow absorbs electromagnetic energy from everything and repurposes it into something that suddenly makes like anti-gravity function. His explanation is not really an explanation, but it's better than all the other doctors there that are trying to give explanations that the general just poo-poos right away.
Yeah, they don't even finish their sentence
He's
before.
like, wrong. And here's the thing,
wrong.
like the
And
theories that they're saying are completely reasonable because it's clear that they have not taken the artichoke apart.
Correct, because they probably couldn't.
They can't tell if it's nuclear or not. You can't. It might be completely shielded. For all you know, this is alien technology.
It could be a singularity.
For all you know, it could be. You don't know. It just looks like...
Could be a small black hole.
That's what a singular... I mean, it could be a ton of things. It could be a dilithium crystal for all we know. Right? Like, just put more Star Trek crap.
By the way, I like Link's one in this one.
It's powered by mayonnaise?
He goes, I'm just a trash man.
I'm just a trash man. I don't know. He's doing lots of work in converting trash into energy. Okay,
right.
all right, fair enough. That's fine.
And
but yeah, like
I couldn't remember what Liz's was.
It was nuclear. It could be nuclear powered, and the general's like, wrong. We've looked at that, and I'm like, so
it's probably it was probably their computer that just answers that it was a cat.
They have a magic computer.
Yes, they have a magic computer. In a box.
It is a computer that's almost as sophisticated as what you would find. I don't know. It's dumb because you can just ask it questions and then it just gives you answers colloquially. Like they later on like they like show it the fur that they found inside the ladybug UFO.
No, the guy was trying to give the general that it might have been a cat.
Yeah.
And the general poo-poos it.
Yeah, but then they show it to the computer. And the computer says, this comes from Felis catus, otherwise known as the domestic house cat. And I'm like, well, that's some bullshit right there. Because it's like, how is the computer doing DNA testing on it? B, there's no way in hell that cat is Felis catus from Earth, which is a domestic house cat. Because then that opens up a big can of worms that like, okay, well, then these cats didn't evolve on their home world. And they talk about coming from a whole other galaxy and that they evolved there. They even say that they evolved there and learned how to use their minds rather than tools. And that's why they have these weird glowing collars. No, this suggests that they came from Earth and were uplifted somehow by some other aliens. The fact that the computer says that that's Felis catus opens up a can of worms for the larger Cat from Outer Space universe. This could have multiple sequels with uplifting aliens coming back.
He's one of Franklin's kids.
What are you talking about?
The Red Dwarf.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
That came back in time. One of Frankenstein's kids. Yeah, okay, so if you don't know, there's a British television show called Red Dwarf, which we both love.
And we love, our favorite character is the cat.
The cat. I love the cat. And it's because the cat is a humanoid that has slightly pointy ears and sharp teeth, and he's incredibly vain and has all like the bad qualities of a cat because he evolved from a cat that was kept on board the ship.
That is mine. That is mine. That is mine. You can have that.
You can have that. That's not mine. But he evolved from a house cat that had kittens on board the ship, and they populated the ship after humans had died on it from a drive plate accident. And they had hunted all the mice that had also bred out of control on the ship. And they were slowly dying out because they had no more food until one of them, who had evolved opposable thumbs, learned how to use a can opener and started opening up all the canned food that was in one of the cargo holds, and therefore became one of the saviors of their religion, besides just Lister, the Slav god, and how the promised land is in Fiji. See, it sounds ridiculous, goddamn, but it's done over multiple seasons, and it's brilliant. Anyway,
but we're not
talking about Red Dwarf.
Why
Go
do you
back.
keep going off of the subject? Oh,
Because
where
it's
was
such-
I on this?
This movie is for kids, and
Okay.
it's so simple.
And the cat actually gets into Frank's office.
Yeah, and he
Lab.
talks to Frank.
And he talks to him, and he gets Frank to take him to Hopscotch, and they find out that there's this one part that needs to be fixed
One part is UFO. Yeah.
in the universe that needs to be fixed, and it requires what?
It requires $120,000 worth of gold. Okay, there's two issues here. Two issues. Jake, the cat, he promises Frank technical information on, well,
A help with what he's
help
doing.
with his research. So they have no prime directive. Jake is directly interfering in human society. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I need help. I need to have $120,000. Well, $120,000 is pretty tough to come across. Well, I know how much gold cost in 1978. I also, which is actually $208.10 per troy ounce. And actually, it all ends up coming out to be about 36 pounds worth of gold that they need to get a hold of.
And so there's these three different groups. You've got the army
Who are incompetent.
that are incompetent. You've got Olympus,
Who's incompetent.
and you've got the group of people that's trying to help the cat.
Who are incompetent. They are.
And one's a gambler.
Which is the only reason this whole thing comes out. Because remember, the guy that was Link, who is in the top secret meeting talking to a bookie on the phone, betting on sports games, he knows people to place bets. So they decide to start interfering in sports games telepathically and psychokinetically.
Yes, the
because
cat has this collar that allows him
he can
to
watch television and like stop footballs in
It
midair.
was a basketball at that time.
Well, they're like the first game's a basketball, so they like place this huge amount of money on all these games, and they need to do like 3 games. They think it's going to be $120,000, but Jake gets knocked out by a vet, and this is where we were talking about how this cat was just completely knocked the f out. They go to the bookie, and honestly, the bookie scenes are probably the best ones in this movie.
The whole thing of that is a wonderful scene with the ball going the cue ball going all over the place.
No, because okay, so here's why I think it's the best scene. It's a self-contained scene. It is clearly meant to be ridiculous, but it's in a very serious situation. It inappropriately reminds me of a piece of the action from the original series of Star Trek where you're surrounded by gangsters. Because all these dudes here are clearly mobbed up. Even the army starts talking about there's a mafia connection in this all now because they went into this bookie. And there's dudes in there that are supposedly pretty scary.
Their names are hilarious, though.
Like
Ernest Ernie.
And like there's like...
Honest
Harry.
There's Weasel.
And they decide to like remove their bet from the third
the Chargers game
because Jake is unconscious, and they still need to make all this money, and they decide they're going to play pool. And hey, look, we're going to get Sandy Duncan as Liz to play this pool game, and Frank is going to take the unconscious cat's collar, which he can use because he's used it to fly before already. Yes, that was in a scene previous. And he controls the pool ball ricocheting around the entire interior of this betting house because Liz can't play pool. And he's able to get it back onto the pool table as it's like bouncing off 6 different things randomly. Okay, that's funny. And it actually hits the balls, it scatters the balls, and everyone's like laughing because they're like, okay, well now
Not one went into the hole.
Not one went in. And now our pool shark is just going to clear the table.
What was his name, by the way?
I forget.
You have the thing up there.
I have the thing. Do you remember? I don't know. It does not matter. So anyway, they lose. And you again, and this is part of what makes the scene so good, is they like look through their wallets and pull out $60, and they go, "I have $60. What kind of deal? What kind of odds can you give me?" And I think it's Ernest Ernie's like, no. I'm not going to take that money because my first rule is to never take rent money. Always leave a sucker his rent money. And they're like, no. I want to place this bet. And he goes to Honest Harry. Honest Harry, back me up here. And Honest Harry's like, they have a constitutional right to lose whatever money they want to. And you don't want your reputation to be disregarded.
No, he said that one after he was gonna. He agreed to doing that whole thing.
Oh yeah, he agreed to making whatever crazy bet because it was like, give this pool shark 12 balls.
She'd do it
blindfolded. Et cetera, because they all think she's insane, and they end up giving her the odds so they can get $120,000, like 2,000 to 1 or whatever it is. Anyway, they give it, and he's like, no, I thought this was hypothetical. I'm not going to take your rent money. And yeah, Honest Harry's like, no, you need to do this. And I'll give part of it is that the pool shark is going to get the first break. And everyone knows that this guy is so good that when he breaks, he's going to sink at least one ball, and then he'll be able to clear the field, right? So they're all laughing, and that's when Jake wakes up because of an onion sandwich getting shoved in his nose, right?
And onions, by the way,
are
toxic to cats.
And since we now know from this supercomputer that this is Felis catus, yeah, onions can kill this cat. So he wakes up, rightly so, because like their version of deadly nightshade just got shoved in his nose, or cyanide, and he's like, screw you, I'm awake. He's able to control the cue ball enough that
he puts it back in like a rack with the cue ball going back to its spot.
Yeah, so when like
really
this pool shark, yeah, everyone should have been like, nope, this is rigged. You've done something because this is physically impossible to happen. Like there's other things that obviously Jake manipulates that are just physics wise. This cannot happen, right? Like the football stopping in midair and just dropping straight down. Like there's no reason for that at all. So then like Sandy Duncan gets out there, gets the blindfold on, and she breaks the balls because Jake is controlling everything and sinks every single one of them. They win their $120,000 and immediately go out and buy 36 pounds worth of gold.
They're brick of gold.
There's a place that just has 36 pounds worth of gold sitting around.
And the army then knows it.
Because they think the mob is now involved buying all this gold.
And they're it gets where they think that it's a totally conspiracy. And they've got somebody following them now in a ice cream truck. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
But the army comes to their the
apartment.
The apartment comes in, gets frozen.
Jake freezes them, like mind controls them,
which he's done before, and that caused the
but
problem.
Jake is magic. We understand that
Jake is magic.
And they steal General Stilton's clothes,
and he's wearing a Hollywood with a
Holly nude.
Holly nude, or
yeah, because it had a pinup girl.
It had a pinup girl on it, and some very tacky.
It was just boxer spree. It was fine. He was just pissed off because they stole his clothes. Really,
I would be too.
Yeah, sure. And then like the sergeant snickers about it, and I would have been like, "You're on damn report because you let this happen." Because you don't snicker at a general. Like, that's just something you don't do, right, Darlene? Did you ever snicker at a general? No. I come on. Where, like, you're right next to a general? Did you ever meet a general?
I've met a general.
Okay.
He told me to get in my damn car and get into the United States.
Okay.
Because he had to go get me from the Canadian border because the United States wouldn't let me in.
Was that a general or was it a colonel?
That was a general.
Okay.
That was a first...
a one-star?
One-star of our base.
Okay. So did you laugh at him when he was inconvenienced?
No.
No, you don't laugh at a general. That's the best way to get to Leavenworth, right? They're going to find a reason. Especially this dude who is a dick. General Stilton is a dick. He's not a good officer.
No, he's not.
He's a terrible human being. Anyway.
Like I said, the whole thing goes down the line.
Yeah.
To the
so they
sergeant.
freeze them. They go onto the base, right? They get the UFO working.
Get it out of the hangar. Takes it off.
Oh, but by this time, Liz has been kidnapped by the criminals. A lot of this is just kind of...
And then there's a chase between a helicopter...
and an old wrecked biplane. Jake is making move through the air through telekinesis alone. Because it is, on the ground, it is unflyable. You would never be able to get this thing flying again.
It had a broken propeller.
It is clearly rusted to hell and back. By the way, we need to... and then they rescue Liz. The criminals bail out of this helicopter because the helicopter got damaged.
They're hanging now from a tree.
Yep.
Down a ravine.
Yep. And
the criminals.
Jake gets... he is allowed to stay in the United States because Jake does stay.
He becomes a citizen by the judge and lifts open the judge.
Yeah, he makes the judge fly while he's pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And I think it's because the president of the United States, the message we get is the president says that Jake represents a foreign power, is like a representative of a foreign power that is not hostile. Therefore, there is some sort of concession that will be given to Jake for...
What?
Getting technology out of them.
Yes.
Because it's not like Jake's very against giving people technology.
No, but I don't understand why he didn't grab the second collar.
Maybe he did. Because he's really loving on that white fluffy cat that Liz has.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure that extra spare collar is around.
What is the name of the cat? Because he always calls...
I don't know. He's all hitting on this white fluffy
cat. That's
cat.
the other humorous thing that's there.
It's a little
because he gets
weird.
His mind goes blank like a teenager.
He's like, "Hey, baby, how's it going?"
Yes.
Has anyone told you?
And
your whiskers are sexy?
He did say 5 years he'd been flying without
any company. And I'm like, oh, come on, man! It not only is it a G-rated kids film, these are cats. Dude.
Let me remind you of
it's a Disney movie.
The Disney movie that's the Lady and the Tramp, though.
It's not like Disney is squeaky clean with its movies. Let's just leave it that way.
I have some problems with its ratings. The smoking that the one guy does and the beer.
Oh, yeah, there was lots of beer in this.
It caused them some little bit of grief.
There is lots of beer. So Jake stays, the end. I guess he's a citizen of the United States who can speak to people, but since he's Fellis Caddis, he's probably only going to live for another 10 years or so, because he spent at least 5 flying to Earth from another galaxy.
You don't know. They might have better genetic makeup.
Well, who knows, right?
And we've with spading our cats and that, we've given them an extra 10 years.
I know. There's cats that have lived to be 38, actually. So, that's the plot. It's silly. It's kids. What worked, Darlene? What worked?
I think
you get to lead this.
Lot of not all of the comedy, but
wow,
I like the comedy.
Okay, you think the comedy works? Okay. For kids, yes, it works. As an adult, most of it's cringy.
I will agree with you on that. But when did I start watching this?
But this is a kids movie.
This is a kids movie.
So does it work for kids? Yes, I will agree.
The technobabble did not work.
Yeah, but that's most of these. It's rare to have a film that has technobabble that makes sense. When it does, I underline.
I already said that the spaceship, the little ladybug.
It was simple.
Simple. Even the inside was
simple. I liked it. I thought it was really cool that we got to see an M3 half track.
Oh, there was so much World War II.
World War II and Korea.
Was there a Korean thing in there?
Some post-Korea stuff too. There is some, but it's the background stuff that's generally World War II. But yeah, an M3 half track.
When you go to Frank's house, his apartment, it is cluttered.
Yeah, it's cluttered with crap, but there's
So
lots
is
of weirdness.
so
in
is
there.
his office. So you kind of get this, and he comes off as this absent-minded. Time has no relevancy in his mind.
I think the sets work in this. I'll agree. I think the sets do work. I think the cat actor did a good job. But I mean, that's just luck.
Cat actors. There's two of them.
I think that's more of like just cat wrangling. But I don't think it really... It didn't look like the cats were miserable until it was clear that they drugged the cat.
And the fluffy one,
I don't know. The fluffy one's fine. But I mean...
it was just being held at the times.
Yeah.
So
I think the acting was okay. I will say, the writing, though, the dialogue in this movie, I don't think works. I think the dialogue in general is kind of poor. Is it okay for a kid's film? I think it's okay for a kid's film.
well, how would you have rewrote with the dialogue?
I would have made it a little less chaotic. At least when people were talking to each other, it felt like... When Liz was talking to Frank, it always felt like they were talking past each other.
They were
which is
at
part
times.
of the comedy. Yes, which is part of the comedy. But it's really difficult to keep track of who's talking about what when they're misconstruing each other's own words. Because you don't know if somebody's being interpreted correctly or not. For a kid's film, it's fine because you're not really paying attention to the details. You're paying attention to the cadence and the general outcome to it all as a kid. I don't think the dialogue worked. I think there's a couple scenes that could have been done better. I think the actors did fine though with what they had. I don't think I would put it into the category of it worked or didn't work with the actors, but they did fine. The only thing I think was poor for characters in general was I think the army guys were too much buffoons.
Yes.
I think they should have been a little more serious, a little more threatening. Even in a kid's film, you can be a little threatening as these are the antagonists, right? The only thing that makes them slightly scary is the fact that Harry Morgan as General Stilton screams a lot. But he doesn't come across as angry, he comes across as a buffoon more than anything.
And maybe that's why he's on Project Hopscotch.
I think the criminal element of this does not work at all.
Because they did not do what they would have done.
No, it's not just that. It's just that they're extraneous to the plot. You could have literally had Liz held by the military.
You're talking about Olympus.
Yeah, Olympus, his gang. Like, what's the point? None of it.
It could have been
you could have had Mr. Stallwood, Roddy McDowell's character, like being a rat to the military. And you could have had two different parts of the military operating against each other. And at the end, it could have been Stilton working with Frank to get Liz back, because it could have, let's say it's, hey, there's Soviet agents that tracked this thing in and are now looking for the cat as well. And that could have been like an honest threat there that still could have been fun and could have worked in a kid's film, because you don't make the Soviet or whatever, the criminals that are there for tracking this cat, you don't make them super scary. You make them serious, but you make your main characters smarter and that they care more. Or you have Liz be able to break away from them by herself without having to be the damsel in distress. Because she is, in the end, is the damsel in distress. And I'm not a fan of that. Because Liz really doesn't seem to have any agency in this movie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But keep going. No, talk more, because this is one of your favorite movies, and I'm not wanting to crap all over it, Darlene.
It's a kid's movie.
I'm
That's
not
all I'm
crapping
saying
on
is
it.
it's a kid's movie.
I actually do like this film. I am going to recommend it. It is outside of our time frame, but as we said at the beginning,
it looks like and acts like a 1960s
B movie
comedy.
I mean, just the title by itself,
Comedy
The Cat from Outer Space, is pretty 1950s and 60s inspired. I think there are a couple things that modern filmmakers could learn from this. I think it is, you don't need to have a special effects laden science fiction story. Like, this does try to tell an interesting story with minimal special effects. Like, you have a light up collar on Jake the cat. When he's talking, his collar lights up, or when he's using like mental powers, it lights up. There's a little bit of green screen when things are being moved through the air, but it's mostly wire work. So all the stuff is generally done in camera for this movie. I respect that a lot.
And you saw the hose in the beer thing.
Sure. But you know what? That was done. That means it was done in camera, and I have respect for that. Now, it's 1978. You don't have a ton of stuff that's wacky CGI, obviously you don't. But I mean, I have respect for it. So the special effects that were here, pretty good. Pretty good. And I think that's something that a modern filmmaker can take away. You can have a silly science fiction movie and not have it special effects laden. You don't need to have a ton of CGI. You don't need to have a ton of flashy things.
And the most interesting part of it is the spaceship was simple. Yeah. And it made it more believable, I think, of it as a spaceship for a cat.
For a cat, because it's small. I will say that you can take simplicity too far. Because if it was just a plain saucer without those like green eye-looking things on it, it probably would have looked too cheesy. Like, it would have looked.
And those green things are actually where his computer comes up.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if it was just a plain like saucer, like a plain silver saucer, that's taking it too far. I like the details of the green eye window looking things that are on it, because they're not just on the front; they're all around it.
There's and like they're on the inside, because on the inside they're the computer screen.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think that's nice. It's not too simple. It's simple, but it's not too simple. Is there anything else that you want to praise on this movie or complain about?
I don't have anything.
No.
Else?
We do recommend it, though.
Yes. It's my favorite from, well, not my favorite, but it's one of those ones that I really enjoyed when I was a kid.
Okay. I don't think I have a ton more to say about it, because it is a simple kids film. If you're wanting to watch a cheesy sci-fi film with your children even today, you could do much worse than this. This is pretty good. It's not offensive. It is Disney, so you know kind of what you're getting, even though...
And it's old Disney, so it's the old live-action Disney, so it's not got undertones of bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's the weird, like, cat hitting on the other cat when... I don't know. That to me, that's weird, but it's not like it's a kid would think anything weird about that. That's just funny. Like, okay, that's funny.
But the cat keeps getting...
distracted by the
fluffy white cat.
Mr. Bigglesworth.
Mr. Bigglesworth looking cat.
I forget what the cat's name is. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's the Mr. Bigglesworth fluffy white cat. Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. We do like this. I hope you don't mind us talking about it, because it is like 1978. But like, I've talked about Stalker because I think Stalker is so important to science fiction overall. Especially you can divide much science fiction between
there's one
like
thing I would
pre-Stalker
say
and post-Stalker.
This would be a neat thing for kids to get involved in science fiction movies.
Sure.
That's not overly grim. We've got a lot of grim science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole post-apocalyptic Hunger Games kind of
even
sci-fi
Prodigy
stuff,
Star Trek.
Prodigy is so good, though.
It's so good, but they're slaves.
They were. They're escape slaves, and they're going to free them, by gum, because that's how this plot is going to go. You know it is. But
I'm saying
there are some grim aspects to it.
There's no
grim aspects to this. There's no grim aspects to this. This is just adorable. So we'll leave it at that. I don't know what we're going to watch next. I think we know what we're going to watch for 140, though. So that's 2 episodes from now. I think we're going to watch Dr. X.
Dr. X, yes.
We're gonna make another check off of our Rocky Horror Picture Show reference from the theme song. I think we might be getting close to having all of them actually referenced. So we'll leave it there. Thanks, folks. Thanks for listening. I was Aaron.
I am Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.